Hey guys, it's SD, your host of the Life Picks Relationship podcast, where people with all sorts of backgrounds, challenges, and life experience show us how they make their relationship extraordinary.
Hey guys, hope you're having an awesome day. Have you checked out the YouTube channel yet, Life Picks Relationships, and actually see us interact and see the energy that comes out? It's cool, no? I mean, I love watching people anywhere, like my favorite place is the airport, literally for that reason. Especially when I'm talking to a person, I need to see them. So I love podcasts because they're perfect for when I'm doing other things and just listening, but it's really cool to be able to see it in person, see facial expressions and all my hand motions and what I'm doing, my eye movements. Let me know what you think of that. Life Picks Relationships. Now, for today's guest, we've got someone with a really interesting background. I'm not going to ruin it. I'm going to let her tell you about it, but I think you'll absolutely love her. She is the host of the Fairyqueen Talks podcast. After all, she calls herself Fairyqueen of her kingdom, where you could go and check it out on her Instagram, Fairyqueen Tatiana. Thank you so much, Fairyqueen Tatiana, for being here. I am so excited to be speaking with you. Let's start with, how did you meet your husband?
So I met my husband many years ago, so about 7 years ago. We met at a church convention. So it's basically where young people, young singles in my faith meet up and do different activities. And it was actually at like an old girls and boys school. So girls were separated to boys, but in some buildings there was a mix. But the first time I saw him, I was actually playing basketball, so I was very sweaty. I wasn't my best self. However, he noticed me the first time when we had like a dance at the nighttime, and I was just dancing away magically. And he noticed me on the dance floor, and that moment changed everything in my life.
Did you know right away from the beginning, oh my God, this is the guy I want to marry? Or were you just interested in him?
Well, at this point, I was like just my early 21. So I was just turned 21. I was just thinking, what am I going to do in my life? I don't want to waste my time in silly relationships that I had been before. So I just thought, I'm just open for new opportunities in life. I wasn't thinking about love. But as we started talking, I just noticed something very special with him. And I just felt, I don't know, I can't describe it, but I just felt like he had a very kind spirit. And that really stuck with me throughout our meeting. And then I just thought, this person is too good to just be a friend. And that's when my heart changed.
Wow. If you had to say his like top two traits, would you say that's one of them? And if not, what are those top two traits?
Yeah, so I would say kindness. He is really kind. Actually, on our wedding day, at the end, so at the end of the party, he offered a lift. So he offered to basically drive my friend to her place, and I was in my wedding dress, and we were supposed to have our amazing, wonderful night. And he offered a lift, and I thought, you can be kind any other day, but today is just a day to be.
It's my day.
um, Funny enough, because of his kindness, so we got in a car, all four of us, and our car actually, the wheel stopped, so we couldn't drive. But yeah, it ended up being like the universe knew it was my day. So he actually couldn't be completely kind, so we had to be a bit selfish and just say, well, we're just going to go move over to our evening, and you guys will be looked after by someone else.
So don't think that it's selfish. My question to that would be, do you find if he's always really kind that it sometimes like takes a toll on your relationship, or he's like doing too much, or like, now this, like, I just can't have you do this now?
I think his kindness can sometimes be confused. So sometimes some people may take advantage of it, which is, it is not, it's nice to see someone that you love being taken advantage of. So I think sometimes he should just focus more on himself instead of like being kind to others. I'm not saying he's always super sweet, but he's just very considerate of other people. And besides of being kind, he's very witty, so he's very funny and humorous. And from the beginning of our relationship, I always said, I want you to keep being this funny guy, because laughter is so important. And, we had a long distance relationship, so you have to keep the conversation going, or where we travel. So it's just important to have someone who's very witty and just funny and just gets it. So yeah. So those are the two top traits, I would say.
Are you like the type of couple that like while you're in the middle of fighting, all of a sudden you just like burst out laughing from something?
It's one of those where I'm trying to be serious sometimes, to be like, I want to get my feelings out. But it does something, and you're just like, really? And it's very hard when you're trying to get your point across and say why you're so emotional for whatever reason. And he just does that look, and you're just like, oh my goodness, yeah, we can never be serious. So yeah, so it can be hard to hold a grudge at times. But yeah, I think that really helps with arguments. It kind of solves it quickly. And he's the type of person that he just wants everything to be okay. So it's me to have to do the work within and be like, let it go. Just let it go.
So he's easier at letting things go.
Oh yes, far easier. I think some people say like, you should never keep a grudge and never go to sleep without an argument in marriage. And he's like, he said his thing and he's done, and I can just fester it in my mind. So I have to let go. So that's a bigger task for me personally.
So how did you learn? Obviously, you're still in the process, but I'm sure that from when you got married until now, you learned something on how to let go with such a guy in your life. What are some tips you could give to someone else who wants to let go and not always feel like they have to hold on to this?
Yes. So my mother-in-law actually gifted me a book about marriage. I forgot the title now, but reading that book really made me realize that a lot of the things that we can be angry about, sometimes it's just within us. So I question myself now whenever I am angry, where is this coming from? Is this coming from a place of annoyance with myself? Did I have a bad day? So I really try to reflect before I express my feelings, because sometimes it's just I've just had a bad day or just something happened, and then I just snap at an opportunity when he is probably not thinking about what he's doing, and I'm just like, oh, I know you didn't close the door right, just something silly, and then that's where the argument can start. Most of our arguments happen in the car because I'm a nervous driver. So whenever he's driving, I just get like super nervous. So that's where like loads of it's not really arguments, but it's just like silly discussions about what you should do, shouldn't do. But you just have to make sure that you're not putting your own feelings to someone else. So check in with yourself before you start a fight that you don't really want to start.
Yeah. It's taking 100% responsibility for the situation, and not like, you did this and you caused this and you triggered that. And okay, so maybe you felt triggered about something, or maybe you got angry about something, but
Yes.
you don't stay like that. So what are you going to do to go and change that? I like that so much. I like the car. You know what that reminded me of? My mom's also, she's like really bad. A few years ago, she got in like a really bad accident. And like ever since, she was fine. The car was completely totaled. But like ever since then, she was like really, really nervous. If she is sitting with me in the car, she knows she's not allowed to look up. She has to like look on her phone or be doing something else, because or else I can't drive. I'm like, I'm going to pull over if not.
Yes, and
Yeah.
I hear you. I can't drive with my mum. When I was learning to drive, she asked me, can you drive? I said, yeah, of course I can drive. Then I drove with her in the middle of the road. She's like, you're doing this one. I just stopped the car. I was like, well, you take the keys. I'm not doing this.
Yeah.
In traffic, but it's just like, I just don't like confrontation like that. So if you're not happy with my driving, take over.
Yeah. So what is your biggest challenge in your relationship, and how do you deal with it?
Yes, I think that the biggest challenge for a long time was people's perception of my relationship. I would say we are from different cultures. So I am Angolan as a background, but I grew up in Holland and I live here. My husband, he is English. And so from both sides of people I know and the people that he knows, people just had different perceptions of whether, this would be a viable relationship. And people, when I introduced him to like my community, some people were like, are you sure you don't want to stick within your culture? Because that's what we want for you. That's what should be happening. Is just stick to your culture. And someone not in his family, but from people that he knows, was really concerned about the bloodline. And it's just like, why are people thinking that two cultures can't mix. So I understand where they're coming from, but I don't think that it should be a big a reason for a relationship to stop if it's based on love. Obviously, I love my culture, and we both have children together, and we make sure that they have both cultures in their lives. But people think it's be diluted, and so that's been quite a challenge.
But I think that was way cooler that your kids have two different cultures. They're now more exposed to more cultures. They know about more things. And they're, I'm sure, more accepting of other people, of cultures that are not even yours or your husband's, because they've seen so much that it's like, so what? Like you said, who cares?
Yeah, you have to be open-minded when it comes to being in an intercultural relationship, I would say, and to be able to understand the background of someone else. So I'm open to learning about his culture. So I'm like, watching The Crown because it helps learning more about British history. But also it's his turn to like look at my culture. It's not just the language, it's food, it's music, it's our history. So it allows you to expand your mind, and I think it's a beautiful thing when you can and have a true connection to your culture. So it's not just you're learning about it in a book, but you're experiencing it. And I think it's a beautiful part of intercultural relationships.
So how did you deal with all the outside noise that everyone was telling you? It's really hard.
Yes, I really had to think about why am I with this person? So what actually attracts me to him, and what kind of life do I want to build and the legacy for, my prosperity? Because ultimately, I do want to have children. I understand that, sometimes there can be conflicts with people who are of a dual heritage or multi-heritage. But I just had to dig deep and think, first of all, it's about love and compatibility. And you can find that within your culture and also outside of your culture. So ultimately, our home is where I don't feel that pressure, but it's when we step out and other people see us, it's like, oh, sometimes it can be strange looks, sometimes it's positive, but it's really about what we are creating for our legacy and our children. And that's where I find happiness. So it's not about the outside world as much, but what is my life like at home? Because our marriage is lived on the everyday basis. It's not, it's not about the Instagram picture here or there, but you are impacted by society, but ultimately it's your home life that is most important. And I knew, and I'm still very much happy with my everyday life. And I think that's what ultimately I was looking for, is someone to spend every single day with. And now with quarantine, lockdown, I know I've made the best decision in my life to be stuck with him, and I wouldn't be anywhere else.
Wow. Yeah, it's really being true to yourself and knowing what's good for yourself and what you want, and saying other people don't control your life. They can think what they want to think. They can live their own lives, but maybe they're missing out because they're not being open to something else.
Yes.
So that's awesome. Okay. Do you use the 5 love languages in your relationship?
Yes, I've read upon it, and I'm very much a quality type of person. So my husband, he works for the National Health Service, so it's the public hospital here.
NHS.
And it's very long hours. So, we've been together in a marriage for 5 years, so I'm used to the long hours. So whenever he's home, it's quality time. When it comes to love language, I did notice that we are very different in our love languages, and I've just had to learn to understand his love language and kind of integrate it with how I express my love to him. Because I think with love languages, you have your way of being loved, but your partner has another way of being loved, and you have to be considerate of that. So for me, it's quality time. And my husband is more physical touch, so it's a lot of hugging and everything. And I think since I've been pregnant and I'm just like, just let go of me sometimes. So it's been very different because I was just always very hot and I just needed space. And it was a bit of a challenge to be able to show that love when you're super tired and you're just exhausted. You can't even lie down on your bed, you're just on the side. So I've just been considerate about what he needs and what I need. And for me, quality time could be something as small as just having a conversation, but connecting our minds. And ultimately, if my husband has a different way of thinking, I have to be considerate of that. So understanding what his quality time is. So it's been kind of marrying up of each other's love languages. And once I make more effort in that sense, I can see a much better way of love being a bigger thing. So it's almost like we are in love, but when you show love how someone wants to be loved, they're much happier, more at ease, and they just have a better experience in your marriage.
Was it hard for your families that you got married into different cultures?
Both of our families, funny enough, are very intercultural. So it wasn't like I wasn't the first person from an African background to enter his family. He wasn't the first white European to enter into my family. So it wasn't a shock for our families. And when I really look at our family pictures, I say, oh, actually, everyone is pretty much intercultural. So it's been kind on reflection, it's like this is how our family is. But it wasn't that I was we were both seeking each other and making sure that we, get this UN kind of family. But that's how it ended up being. The people that we found have been from different cultures,
So
so it's
cool.
very interesting. So when
Yeah.
you look at our families, it's very much all the children are all brown somehow. So yeah, it's very interesting to see.
So cool. Find it really fascinating. I wonder if because of the fact that you come from a family that's really intercultural, for you it wasn't so crazy to go to someone from a different culture versus if everybody would have been just like you and then like all of a sudden you were stepping out, it would have been a much bigger deal probably.
Yes, I completely agree, and that's why I would say it's not a problem in our families because it's very intercultural. But it's the outside.
The society who just makes judgments based on knowing nothing and deciding that they have their opinion and they think that what they're doing is
Yes, and in his family, he was the last one to get married because all of his siblings were married before. So it was like the last child to try and change his mind. And with my family, I think my family just thought I was not going to get married, to be honest.
Why was that?
I think because I never really presented them with any potential partners, because I just think if I'm not going to marry you, it's not going to be worth introducing to the family and kind of build that connection, because family is such a huge part. And I just don't want my nephews to be like, oh, this is a new uncle here, uncle here. It's like just one and we stick to it.
I like that.
So yeah, and also I didn't want to present too many people to my dad. So it'd just be like just the one person, that's it. You don't need to know
A really special one.
Yes. So yeah, that was very important to us.
Cool. Now, how have you learned or have you always been very vulnerable with each other?
I think at the point that we met, because we had basically a phone friendship. So he lived in London and I was in Manchester. It's 2 hours on a train, but if you drive,
4 hours.
it can be very long.
Time.
Yes. And we were both at university. We were both studying. I was doing my jobs, so we were quite busy people. So it was very much conversation. And I think throughout, when you have those night conversations when you're dating and getting to know each other, there is no way you can't be vulnerable, because we would be on the phone for hours and hours and hours, and my roommates would be like, shut up, it's like, just go to bed. So it was very easy to be vulnerable with him, and I think that's what also allowed me to feel safe and to think, actually, I could be married to someone like this, because I don't have to pretend to be someone. I can be myself and show my true colors. And especially for me as a Black woman, sometimes I feel the stereotype of being strong all the time can be quite negative, because sometimes I may not feel so strong, or I may be a bit weak, and I need someone who I can actually come to with my concerns and be like, I'm actually having a bad day. Can you just
You're
comfort me?
human.
So, even though I'm Fairyqueen and I can get into my magical powers, you do have moments where you also need to be embraced by someone else. And I was able to do so with him. And so, yeah, vulnerability has been from the start of our relationship. And that's really what I was looking for in a marriage, because throughout life, we're going to have moments that are going to make us vulnerable. It's going to humble us, and to be surrounded by the right person and be loved by the right person will allow you to survive those times.
Yeah. Now, do you think it helped you by the fact that you had a lot of your beginning conversations over the phone instead of in person? Like you didn't have to worry so much about how you looked and what was going on?
Yes. So it's about 6 months, talking most days, every day. I think that really, really helped, because I think throughout a relationship, it's an extended conversation. It's like the sleepover that never ends.
I like that
So
expression,
you got to
sleepover
keep
that never
talking.
ends.
Yes, one of my friends, when I asked her, like, what is marriage like? She's like, and she told me it's like having a sleepover with your best friend. And so I was looking for that person that could literally be my bestie, and we can have, popcorn or Doritos and just chill most of the days. And so, yeah, I think that was very important, to have that kind of person that you could, live the everyday moments with.
Yeah, but was it easier, the conversations, the fact that they weren't in person, but they were over the phone?
Yes, because when you're in person, you worry about how you look and everything. So over the phone, you can talk, and it's your minds connecting. But also, I would say, like, when we felt comfortable enough, we would just get the Skype out, because Skype was the thing then. Now it's all over Zoom. So yeah, we just get Skype out. But having phone conversation, just connecting with someone's mind, I think is so beautiful, because besides having a pretty face or good looking body, I think it's the mind that you're marrying. So it's the person behind all of this. So I think that connection is very important. So that's what the phone allows.
Yeah,
To
that's the
have that.
connection. That's the change. That's the growth. What all comes from the mind. Yeah.
Yes.
Now, if there's someone who's out there listening and can't be as vulnerable as you could, what would you suggest them to do to start becoming more vulnerable?
I think it starts with you being vulnerable to yourself. And because if you are not honest with yourself, or you can't get to a space where you understand where your feelings come from, where they stem from, why you feel angry, and understand your emotions, you can't show that to someone else. So you really have to do the work within yourself. So I believe, for me, by the time I was 21, I'd come on a personal journey from about when I was 18, to really get to know who I was without my parents, without the friends that I'd known for all those years. I started a whole new life, a new chapter, and I really got to know who I was. And at 21, I knew exactly who I was. So I think if I'd met my husband before, I wouldn't have been ready to get to a relationship where I could truly be vulnerable. So I'd had, at least a couple of years, like 5 years or 4 years it was, to really get to know myself. So if you want to be vulnerable in a relationship, you have to first have that vulnerability within yourself, and work on yourself. And then you can share that with another person, because you'll be comfortable enough to do so.
Totally, because or else, like, you're putting on a show and you're not really being vulnerable. There's just no way of being able
Yes.
to be vulnerable. Now, what would you say, like, how has it worked out, the dynamics between raising your kids together? Like, did you have the same views? Do you view things really differently? How did that work? Or was he busy at work all day that he doesn't really care what happened?
So when it comes to parenting styles, that once we're having our 6 month getting to know kind of conversation over the phone, we spoke about everything, because at that time we were just becoming friends. We were just seeing how we view relationships. So we had like really deep conversations. So parenting was one of those conversations. And he just said, like, what's your style? Like, I come from a very strict household. You get beat for everything, or get punished for everything. What are your opinions on that? And I think we had those conversations early on. Pretty much, I think, relate conversations that you should have before you get married, we had in those first 6 months. So I knew exactly who I was going on a date with before we went on our first date. So when it comes to parenting, so we had those conversations earlier on, and I was a camp leader at a point, and his niece also attended the same camp, and she fed back with him how I was. And
Know that.
I know, I do know that. But based on the camp, I was one of those camp leaders that made sure everyone was in their place at the right time. And if you didn't sleep when your bedtime, I would beat at the door and be like, "You're gonna," I was very militant because we had about 800 young people we were looking after, and if anything would happen, the parents would come to me. So I was like, nobody's messing with me, and you need to know your place. And as soon as he heard that, he was like, that's who I want as a mother for my children. That's the type of person. I thought, because I thought it was going to scare him. But he said, if I'm going to be working in a hospital long hours, I need to know that my children are going to be in a household where there's going to be some form of order, but also love at the same time. And he just wanted a strong person, because if you're going to be raising girls or boys or whoever the child identifies as, you need to have a strong parent and someone who can show some tough love, because sometimes that is needed. And so when he was that fed back to by his niece, he was like, "Yep, tick." And basically, that sealed the deal.
Really? They proposed to you afterwards?
Not right after, but pretty much it wasn't soon after where it was definitely like, yeah, this is where we're heading. So
So
yeah.
awesome. So cool. I love that. Okay. Now, that was probably something I'm just thinking that you got outside people. I don't know how much people actually see you parenting, because most of that is in your house, but people could for sure see because they stick their noses everywhere. That like, hey, she's being too strict with them, or hey, she's doing this wrong. Probably also no.
Yeah, so I do have some people who see me parenting. So yes, I can be strict, so to say, just keep some order. But I
But it's
also
really
love
tough
to
love.
tough, yeah. It's just tough love. I also love to dance with my children. I get my music out. We're pretty chill. So like my personality transfers to my children, and all I ask of them is just to be well behaved. They're 1 year old, so right now they don't really know anything. So
Let's wait till they turn like 14 or something.
exactly. So it's not been a long experience, but so far, I'm able to be myself, and my children see that. So I'm not like, you have to, go to bed at this time. It's whatever flows the best for our household, because I don't want to be stressed. My mental health needs to be in check. So I'm not going to put put pressure on parenting just because something needs to be perfect. I'd rather be at peace. And that's what my life journey is about, is to have peace in my heart. And I can't act one way towards my children and then be something else. So as when I'm peaceful, they're peaceful. It's like when they say, when you're pregnant, when you're stressed, the baby will feel stressed. So that comes with parenting. If you are happy, your children are going to be happy. And that's all that matters. So as long as they're smiling, they love a bit of a joke, that's the most important thing.
Yeah, I almost like could imagine walking into your house and like just it being really chilled and people are really at peace in there, just like from the whole atmosphere of what's going on.
Yes, and a lot of music as well. A lot of music. So my neighbors don't complain, so it's fine.
Do you play any instruments?
I don't play any instruments. My husband does. I think it's the flute or clarinet, one of those. My kids do the toy drums, but I'm more of a dancer. So I dance to music. So yeah, so that's what we do.
Such fun. Okay. Now, what was the best relationship advice you've ever gotten?
Besides the one about the sleepover, I think my sister always told me. So one of my sisters, she's been in a relationship with her husband since he was 16. It was like one of her first relationships, and that was like a model for us to look at. So she's in her 30s now. But
So
they've,
you were
they've
21 and considered old.
no. So see, because my brother-in-law in this case, he's been like a brother to us, because we've grown up with him, and she's always said to me, you have to let your partner or your husband be who they are. And my brother-in-law is a very much of a big character. You won't miss him in a room. And I think her ability to let him be who he is has taught me so much, because I say the same thing to my husband now. You be who you are, because I also want to be who I am. And if we allow ourselves to be free in our relationships, it won't feel so rigid. It won't be like, because you're a husband, you have to do X, Y, Z. Because you're a wife, you have to do this. So as long as we can be ourselves, and I think that's what's really helped us to grow, because we met, I was 21, he was 23. I'm now 28, he's 30, and we're still growing as people, but we can do so without having the pressure of having to be a certain way for our significant other.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Oh my goodness. Totally. I think that people have to do that not only with their partners, but also with their kids, of more of just letting them be. Obviously, you need to raise them, and I'm not taking away from that, but
Yes,
more of like not trying to like, oh, you have to do this profession or learn this skill or things like that.
Yes, and we'll do the same with our children, because like, for example, I feel like I've had to go for an academic route when I was younger. I was very, dancing, creative, and that's what I wanted to do. But I was led to a more academic route, and now I'm, working in an office and things like that. But with my children, like, whatever you want to pursue, as long as that is, you've thought about it, and there's a route, I will support you. And that's the way that we both feel about our children, to let them be who they are authentically, because you just want them to be happy. That's all.
Yes, yes. Okay, for our very last question.
Yes.
Okay. Question that I ask everyone. How would you describe an extraordinary relationship without using these three words? Love, connection, and intimacy.
An extraordinary relationship is a relationship where you'll be accepted and embraced for the person that you are, and cared for because you are the most special person in their lives.
I love that so much. Like, it totally goes to just the values that I believe in life in general. It's awesome. I'm serious. You're an awesome fairy queen. A real one. Thank you so much for being here. It was such fun talking to you.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Awesome.
Did you enjoy that episode? Could you do me a personal favor and subscribe and leave a review? It would mean a lot to me. Thank you so much, and have an awesome day.